right. Is it nature or nurture? That's the classic argument in development. Which comes into play more? I'm sure there are some gray areas, and Dr. John Braccio has studied this extensively. Of course he has, because he is the guy driving the ship there at Regional Psychological Services and joins us this morning. Doc, good morning.
Well, good morning to you, Mike. And I've always found the nature versus nurture debate to be both entertaining and really very interesting. There are many persons who will argue genetics are far superior than life experiences, okay, that one has in determining their success in life. Well, on the other hand, there are many persons who are convinced that the opportunities one has in life are far superior to genetic makeup. The question is, if a person is more impacted by the genetic makeup or their life experiences. I am of the belief that both are very important, and it really is impossible to make an accurate decision one way or the other. There clearly are people who seem to have better aptitude for certain types of academics, sporting activities, or social experiences, okay, than others. On the other hand, it's rather clear that experiences have a huge impact on your opportunities to succeed and do well in life. The fact that identical twins who have the same genetic makeup often achieve differently and appear to have different talents clearly shows that environment is critical in terms of what people do and not just in genetic makeup. I personally had two good friends in my youth who became engineers. One was superb academically and did his degree in 4 years and did have a successful career. The other lacked the ability of the other, but had a tenaciousness and an absolute desire to become a big-time engineer. Took him 6 years, Mike, to do a 4-year engineering degree, but ended up.
Well, you know what though? I could not do it in. I couldn't do it in 10, so I don't hold that against anybody.
Well, listen, this guy did fine. He ended up building roads all over the world for a multinational company. I also have known persons in my practice and on the road of life with tremendous abilities in various academic areas and very strong interpersonal skills that never had the opportunities in life to expand on these skills, and as a result, never developed or achieved their potential. We also see it in sports, where someone with greater natural ability often does not achieve to the level of the tenacious and totally dedicated athlete with less physical ability, but with a burning desire to achieve to the highest possible level. I have seen persons with limited abilities finally hone them to the highest possible level and become very successful in their fields. Another factor, now this is a factor not talked about, is really personal attractiveness, is defined by the time that that person is living. Persons who are seen as attractive in a society are often given opportunities that persons who are not seen as attractive do not. Clearly is not fair, but is reality. There was a study done some years ago that showed when persons talked to persons on a phone who they believed were attractive, they treated them better than if they felt they were not attractive. So attractiveness would be a genetic factor that is usually not talked about when persons are talking about nature and versus nurture. I only mention it because I think if anyone looks at the world as it is, they will see that being attractive is a positive factor and opens opportunities in life. Now, with that said, Mike, many persons who are not attractive have great success due to confidence, competence, and really solid communication skills. My final thought is that the whole issue of nature versus nurture is really going to be debated as long as humans debate issues. But there never will be a complete agreement. And I've been dealing with this the days when I taught at MSU in growth and development. I believe it's simply safe to say that if a person has the opportunity and desire to develop their skills to their maximum potential, it's protectable, they will do it. It also is true that individuals need to focus on what skills they have and develop them as best they can rather than getting, into any type of debate about whether their environment or their genetic makeup will determine, their success in life. It obviously will be a combination of the two, along with your commitment and really your effort and desire to succeed. So I think the debate is really not a good debate. Or I guess it's a good debate, but obviously if you have abilities and you have opportunities, they certainly merge together and to give you better opportunity to succeed, because you could have great skills, but really if you don't have the opportunity to develop them, then really you're predictably not going to do it. So it's a fascinating topic, interesting topic, and if you really think about it, it's just one that I think common sense means you kind of come down with both of them. But I've had these debates and discussions with back really more when I was really teaching in terms of MSU. But the debates, well, no, this is the most important and this is the most important. They're both, to me, critically important. How does that solve for success?
Yeah, well, everything turns into a contest, doesn't it? Everything turns it from political races to nature versus nurture. We want to break it down as to like almost like a sporting event. We get stats and then we argue the point. I can see both on this, and we all have personal experiences that show us both sides. I mean, you have there's the old thing of we always become our mom and dad. There's a point in life where you find yourself saying something to your own kids and you go like, by golly, I sound like dad. Is that nature or is that nurture? Well, I don't know. If your dad was a nice guy, or mom or dad, if there was always anger in the household, then you might parent the same way because that's all you know. But yet then you hear these cool stories of people who break that cycle. So we're all individuals, right? We forget that. We're just individuals.
I think absolutely that's really true, Mike. And again, there's no question that, what we see, that's kind of a little different, but it does relate to the topic. What we see in life, how we grow up, we can have a big influence on how we're going to behave. I think if we've had good parenting, good advice, I think we all have it. My dad always says, John, it's the 10 years after high school that will determine how the next 50, 60 years of your life will be. I've said that to countless people, and it's very true. When you prepare, well, first of all, you have to get through high school. You have to be working hard along the way. But then it's what do you do that next 10 years, educationally, professionally, work-wise? That will determine the course of your life. And I've not found better advice than that as far as just a general belief. And I've given that and got that from my home, and the idea of, those are things that we learn. That would be obviously part of the environment in terms of growing up. But then your abilities. I guess the most obvious one is in sports. If you're going to play basketball and you're 6'6" and you're very agile and you're a good shooter and you move and you've got good vision, that's going to give you a good heads up, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
Play, if that's what you want to do, is play basketball. So, and it's the same thing. People seem to have these abilities. But I mentioned the two engineers, the friends of mine, because one was just a crackerjack academically. Everything was easy for him. Math came easy, language came easy, and he did very well in life. It's not like he was not successful. But the other person took him 6 years, but he really had a tenaciousness, a desire, a dream to be an engineer, and ended up having a big-time job, in terms of traveling the world and really building roads. So it's obviously a combination, and then the desire within you too. What do you desire now? And again, is that nature? Is that nurture? I mean, that tremendous tenaciousness to do the most, and because we certainly all know persons that come from homes that parents didn't necessarily push them that much, but they had this inward desire, So it's one of those. It's a chicken egg kind of an argument, but obviously the mixture of the two. If you have good talent from a genetic point of view, and you have good opportunity to develop the skills, then that certainly appears to be the magical combination, the two of them. Yeah.
You see this also. As you know, one of my favorite topics is business and entrepreneurism, specifically. And you see it in that line, too, because if mom and dad were business owners or he had that entrepreneuristic mindset, then you generally grow up with that and you think that way. It's harder to, like my mom and dad, I have so many ideas and I've tried so many different little business things. And before any sort of semblance of success, right? But growing up, I'd have these ideas, and I'd say, what if we did this? What if that was this? And I wanted us to have a family business. And mom and dad's idea, now God love them, Depression-era people, World War II, all of that.
Depression era, yeah, that's right.
Go with the security. But that's for those people. That's not us though. And but it's somebody. Why not us? You need the security. Get a job and then do the other thing as maybe a fun thing on the weekend. Meanwhile, my cousin Mark never worked for anyone else in his entire life since he was a teenager. And he's a brilliant business guy today. So I don't know. That nature and nurture, I suppose, comes in there as well.
Listen, it depends really on what you want. I guess the most important thing is whatever skill sets you have, you're born with, we'll say genetically, it's how you develop them. And again, there's a good book, Rich Son, Poor Son, this Rich Father, Poor Father. The just in terms of what's pushed in a person's life, what are the background? Like some homes do. They definitely push for government. You want security, you want this, you want that. And others say you want to have the wind at your back. You really want to go out. You want to be an entrepreneur. And those are things that people get in their home. And I've seen that often if you come from an entrepreneurial family, that is where people tend to go. They tend to enjoy the idea of building companies. Some buy them, sell them. There are 100 different things you could do in the entrepreneurial world. On the other hand, there are those that are very comfortable in government and getting good positions and working there. This is another thing about this, is there's not a right or wrong. It's where are you the most comfortable? Do you prefer security or do you prefer the challenge? The idea of building and doing something. And like you're saying, and again, many entrepreneurs, maybe all entrepreneurs, they're not all successful in everything they do. Often people learn, they struggle. In fact, I'm working with a person right now who's a young person who is actually developing, clothes and things. I guess you'd call that type thing, but he's doing very well, actually. Young guy in his mid-20s, and he's doing a lot of stuff on the internet and making more than...
Yeah, those people. Those young people, those internet young minds. Oh my gosh, I worry. I worry all the time.
the thing here, Mike, that life is just loaded. It's a road. The road of life. It's a one-time road, and you want to find. You really want to find that road for you, and you want to enjoy the road of life too. And again. The nature nurture, there are two things. You come into things. What are your abilities, and then how do you develop them? And to me, it's an exciting type thing. But to try to make one critical over the other,
it's a losing
I think
thing.
We just want to use them all, and we want to have the aptitude, and we want to choose our road, and we want to, with gusto, if you will, go for it.
Ooh.
How does that sound?
Find the good. We're always wanting to find the good. So find the good in the nurturing you received, and find the good in the nature that you received. Hey, Doc, we got to go. Dr. John Braccio, my friend over to Regional Psychological Services. Always great information. I look forward to these Tuesday chats so much. Have a great week, okay?
Same to you, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right, see ya. Yeah, we're in charge of us. 1320 WILS. We'll be right back. Right back. No, don't go away. We're coming right back.